Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here today, remembering the sacrifice of our fallen brothers and sisters. It was a pleasure to be able to link up with Mr. Caleb Cook and get involved with EOWMR this year. As we recall, the 247 that gave it all for their community, their comrades, and the legacy which they've upheld. As Caleb mentioned, my name is Brian Cramer. He asked that during the closing ceremony as I come out, share some of my experiences that I garnered while serving as a Marine Corps sniper in Iraq. So there I was, knee deep, you know what? I'm kidding, but that's how all the great war stories start out there, right? I mean, it's what I'm told. I heard them that way growing up. So anyway, but I promise I'm kidding, but I'll give you some stories. I had plenty of them. From 2005 to 2007, I had the opportunity to serve multiple combat deployments in Iraq. First, Fallujah, 2005, and then again in Ramadi in 2006 and 2007. I spent most of my formative years as a young man either in combat or training for combat. When I was not deployed, I spent time training snipers in critical skills such as land navigation, escape and evasion, marksmanship, first aid, and patrolling, just to name a few. It was during those years that I learned some very valuable lessons that transcended the Marine Corps. As Caleb shared the artwork with me for this year's event, it amazed me how relevant that design was in the theme art to my time that I served as a Marine in combat. The lessons I learned as a young Marine aligned directly with the phrase Caleb prepared for this picture. The mantra, save yourself, no one's coming. It was a direct reflection of how I felt as a combat Marine and sniper serving in Iraq. It's what I learned the hard way as a sniper, operating deep in enemy territory, oftentimes with limited support and miles away from friendly forces. It's what I experienced firsthand on the battlefield. It was the chaos, the death, sometimes the feeling of being isolated and alone. Save yourself, no one's coming. That phrase is a wake-up call. It's a shout for individual accountability, loyalty, dependability. In it lays the foundation for overcoming anything that you face in life, whether on duty or off. Like the Marine Corps, I feel law enforcement holds key elements that ensure the success of the mission and the sustainment of the individual. Proficiency in marksmanship, firearms handling, defensive tactics, fitness, academic knowledge, all those things are paramount. I have a high regard for members of our LEO community. I look at it differently than others. Some may say I look at it the wrong way. I don't know, but I see it like this. When I was a young Marine, I was able to get aboard a plane and leave my battlefield 7,000 miles away behind me. The men and women serving in our law enforcement community, they do not have that luxury. The decision to serve and protect, it means that every morning, afternoon, night, when you strap up your kit and you step out that door and go on shift, you're setting foot into your own personal battle space. You're stepping out in your own trenches. I know for myself, there were times stepping outside the wire could become routine, mundane, even outright uneventful. Those are the days when complacency sets in. I know I had my share of them, but those times can change in an instant. When you least expect it, you can find yourself involved in a situation that is so hot, so violent, so lethal, that is beyond comprehension. It's what we do today that prepares us for the moments that may happen tomorrow. The deadliest threat to myself as a young Marine was constantly fighting back a lackadaisical attitude about my work, about my training, about my job. Because in the end, it's truly complacency that kills a warrior. Our failure is focusing energy on what we can't control and then reacting to those things and responding to them, fear and stress. And what we should be doing is putting our energy into things that we can control, such as our training, our fitness, and our tactical proficiencies. Maintaining strict discipline on what's within our wheelhouse is what makes all the difference. So there I was. Not a joke this time, this is a real story, I promise. There I was, covered in blood, not long after my 19th birthday. April 23rd, 2005, to be exact. Had blood all over my clothes, my boots, in the cracks and crevices of skin all over my hands, buried deep beneath my fingernails. It was a trauma scene, combat trauma. I was concussed, my eardrums blasted from the recent explosion. I was sluggish, dazed, disoriented, struggling to make sense of things. I assessed myself, and it was obvious that the physical wounds that I had were minimal, other than just getting my head wrong. It was in that moment that I knew that I was involved in a catastrophic situation. The blood that I wore on my body that day, the blood was not mine. The blood was not spilled from my veins. It's not from my body. It was the blood of my brothers. Moments prior, my platoon had been on security patrol about 30 miles west of Fallujah, Iraq. We encountered the enemy when we were crossing a bridge over a canal. It was a perfect spot, funnel, choke point, so to speak, for the enemy to make contact. I was in an older model Humvee at that time. Back then, they didn't have any armor. This one really didn't even have any doors on it. I was the fourth vehicle in the convoy that day. That section of bridge that we crossed, it allowed the enemy to consolidate our operations into a narrow window. Immediately, we crossed the bridge, left side of the truck. It's a massive explosion. My head was rocked so hard I lost consciousness. I don't know how long I was out, but when I came back to, I was dazed and confused like never before in my life. My head was ringing so bad that it makes stringing basic thoughts together almost impossible. All the while, my eyes straining to see through the smoke and the debris that now filled the cab of the truck. The driver, despite his wounds, managed to accelerate the mangled vehicle out of the kill zone of the ambush. When the vehicle finally rolled to a stop, I immediately hopped out, established perimeter security to counter and eliminate any additional enemy contact. From there, I began to administer first aid. Our platoon corpsman, who was hit the worst, was the first person that I went to. For those that don't know, Navy corpsman is a medic who's on site to provide trauma care and treatment to wounded Marines. In the Fleet Marine Force, every combat infantry platoon, every combat arms unit will have a Navy corpsman assigned to it. On this day, the roles will reverse. I, the Marine, was treating the wounded Navy corpsman. As I began to assess the casualty, I could see it was an extreme situation. I navigated my hand up the sleeve, and it was apparent there was a deep shrapnel wound that had tore through the arm and buried itself deep in the chest cavity and the neck. I attempted immediately to apply direct pressure, and fumbling with my personal first aid kit, another Marine came and assisted me. We prepped that Navy corpsman for evacuation from the battlefield. With the wounded loaded into another vehicle, we had made the decision at that moment to split the patrol. Half the patrol, along with myself, stayed behind to disassemble the vehicle with any weapons, gear, and equipment, stripped it in case it got left on the battlefield. The other half drove as fast as possible to Battalion Surgical, which is over 30 miles away. Being in a Humvee, if anybody's ever been in one, especially with that bad, you might as well have been on another planet. Once completed, we successfully evacuated 3 wounded Marines that day with serious injuries, and the event resulted in the loss of life of hospital corpsman Eric Kent of Portland, Oregon. His end of watch was April 23rd, 2005. It's a day I'll never forget. I see it often, I see him often, but it's never the laugh, it's never the joke, it's never the smile. It's just the labored breathing, the pale face of a dying man who once before was just full of life. On that day when he needed me, I could not save him. It's said that the wounds are so bad, even if we're sitting in an ER parking lot when the blast went off with medical personnel on site, the outcome would have been the same. Maybe they're right. Maybe that is right. I don't know. But I'm the one that has to live with that question. It's always there. Never stops reminding you, never stops asking, hey man, you could have done better. Regardless, I share this story for a specific reason. If you look back at the artwork that Mr. Cook prepared for this event, you take that skeleton on that artwork, you clothe them in a Marine Corps issued uniform. That's me. That's my brothers. We were in a position that we had to save ourselves because no one else was coming. I realized in that moment and all that horror what death revealed to me. It became astoundingly clear how important it was to be an expert in all that I did. Although I was the most junior Marine in the patrol that day, was I as proficient as I should have been? Was I as proficient as I could have been? If my combat trauma and first aid knowledge would have been higher, greater, would the outcome of that situation have been different? Again, maybe, maybe not. That's the question I live with. But I determined at that moment that in the future, I would know what the answer to that type of question would be. I would never find myself in a position again that called into account my personal readiness. I was a Marine. Marines die. It's part of what we do. I acknowledge that. I live for that. And even to this day, I'm willing to sacrifice to carry on the legacy of the Corps. But one thing I vowed at that point is that my death would not have been from something outside of my control. It wouldn't be because of my lack of proficiency, knowledge, physical standards, or training. I was committed to being the best no matter the cost. Complacency, lax attitude, those things would not be my downfall. I would dedicate myself to greater discipline, focus, and attention to detail. And as I did so, I found continued success over the next several years serving in combat as a sniper when I found myself in similar and even harsher circumstances. Like the scenario I shared, Caleb's artwork, it places us in a position of accountability to be prepared not only for ourselves, but for our brothers and sisters who may depend on us for their survival as well. You must be ready, capable of saving yourself, because at times there may not be anybody else coming immediately. Don't be the one. Don't be the one that's not ready when your time comes. I spoke a great deal about complacency, focusing on things that are within our control rather than those that are not. I'll leave you with a couple parting thoughts. First, from the book of Peter. I read this often. I remind myself of it often. I hope that you'll look it up and you'll do the same. 1 Peter chapter 5, 6 through 8, I'm paraphrasing here. Humble yourselves to God that he may exalt you in due time. Cast your cares upon him because he cares for you. But be sober, be vigilant, because the devil, your adversary, is like a roaring lion walking the earth, seeking whom he may devour. Ladies and gentlemen, evil is present every day. When you step foot out of your battlefield, when you place your feet in your own personal trenches, it's not going away, it's there. It's ever present. I implore you, be alert, be awake. Don't fall victim to being a fool. And when I say fool, you might be like, fool. When I say fool, I mean the biblical definition of a fool. And the biblical definition of a fool is someone who lives as if there is no God. We arise in the morning, rest our head in the evening, and we go about our day willy-nilly as if there is no good and evil, and heaven and hell does not exist. Do not be a fool. I assure you, fools are sorely mistaken, and their errors manifest themselves in complacency. I get it. We're all people. We live lives. There may be times the weekend hits a little bit too hard. Coming on Monday morning, instead of proper rest and nutrition, what do? Reach for the Red Bull, reach for the Monster. Got to have something to give us that edge, to give us the clarity, to get us through the day. I know, I've been there. But it's like I said, what we do today, what we focus our energy on today, is what will prepare us for the catastrophic events of tomorrow. I'll finish with a parting quote from General James Mattis. It seems fitting to me. I'm a Marine. He was a commanding Marine officer when I was overseas in Iraq. While visiting Marines in the field, he spoke on complacency and vigilance. As some areas of the country began to stabilize, there was concern that a defensive posture was taking over the battle space. A lackadaisical mindset was the fear. He stated, be polite, be professional, but have a plan to kill everyone that you meet. He also went on to say, and this is one of my favorites, there's only one retirement plan for a terrorist. I know his words hit home for Marines that served overseas during that time frame. They transcend the Marine Corps. They're timeless. They're applicable even today. And we do. Whether it's terrorists or criminals, there are evildoers out there every day seeking the ruin of souls. We, everyone here, we are the gatekeepers. And we, as the gatekeepers, must be prepared. He said to be professional. What's it mean to be professional? That means to be a master of your craft, knowledgeable, highly trained, proficient in everything that you do. He mentioned to have a plan to neutralize a threat. What does that mean? Well, it's simple. Just to mean another way of saying stay alert, keep your head on a swivel, be disciplined in your daily life. As I said, we are the gatekeepers. And it's not just one retirement plan for terrorists. I know that retirement plan includes criminals as well. And it includes all evildoers that prowl the streets of our nation seeking the ruin of souls. The time may come when what you did yesterday will prepare you for the outcome of today. And if you look around you today, you look at the news, for some, that might quite possibly be this very moment. It's a great pleasure to be here with you all today, honoring the 247 lives lost last year. I thank you all for your time. I appreciate you. And I'll pray for you all. I'll pray for your families. You remain vigilant, remain alert. It is more important now than ever. God bless you all. Thank you.